Hey, good people, my name is Renee. Thank you for taking the time out to listen. If you have not done so, please listen to my previous videos. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Today, I want to talk about Hidden Colors and my review of it and things that stood out to me or resonated with me deeply. So, I saw the film in Atlanta. I went to the Midtown Arts Theater Cinema Complex right off of Monroe. And I went to the 7 p.m. showing, if I didn't say that already. So I went to grab a bite to eat before because I was supposed to meet someone for like dinner, but they wound up running late. It was cool. I still decided to eat. I was so blown off of my feet to walk into the theater and see most of the seats basically accounted for. So that means that people were like ready to see it. They had come well in advance and they were like, okay, let's go. So I thought that was beautiful because I don't think in the previous viewings that I've been to, I don't remember people already being seated. And if they were, maybe I didn't notice it, but I don't remember seeing that in the past. So one of the things that I saw that instantly lifted my spirits and made me happy was seeing Brother Eric Shepherd in the film. If you don't know who Eric Shepherd is, he is the black young man who went to Valdosta State University, who basically walked on the American flag in protest of it and other things. Now, a lot of people got all into their feelings over him walking on the flag. You know, Valdosta State University and the local news media here was trying to paint him and propagate him to be a terrorist. Some of the people that he went to school with basically were lying on him, saying, oh, he had a gun on campus, oh, he threatened me, this, that, and the third. None of that I believe to be true. He was just standing firm on his, disagreement with the American flag and what America represents as a whole. And he's entitled to do so. Like, I didn't take offense to that. People have the right to practice religion however they choose. And we don't, have fits over that. Him walking over a flag didn't cause anybody to lose life, lose food, lose limbs, lose their houses, cause disease. So, to me, it just wasn't that serious. And if it made you feel some sort of way, maybe you should analyze your logic. Because that's stupid to me. He walked on the flag. Okay. Let it go. I think we've all been brainwashed to hold these symbols of what we call being patriotic or whatever. We hold these symbols so high and sometimes even higher than the actual human life itself, which is really stupid when you think about it. It's just a symbol. Now that symbol transcribes different messages to different people across the world, but to me, it's just a symbol. It's nothing more than a logo for a company. It doesn't mean all that much to me. So thank you, Brother Eric, for being in the film, for not letting that situation tear you down. He seems like he was in good spirits, and it just lifted my spirits and made me so happy to see him. Thank you, Tariq, for bringing him in on Hidden Colors 4. One of the other things that I noticed, or that really shook me to my core, was learning about Air Atlanta. Now, I'm an Atlanta native, and I never heard of Air Atlanta. And when I left the theater, of course, I came home to research things that stood out to me and that I didn't know. But I don't ever remember seeing advertisement for Air Atlanta or commercials. So I was just like, wow, really? But I was so happy to learn that. I posted in a Black History group that I'm in online to see if other people had heard of Air Atlanta. Now, most of the people that responded to the post are significantly older than I am, and they said they remember Air Atlanta, but I don't. So it was good to learn about this history, and I want to read part of the article that I found about Air Atlanta to you. So it says, billed as the airline born to serve business, when it began in February of 1984, Air Atlanta was started not by an aviator, but by an attorney who saw a great opportunity. Michael Hollis was a graduate of Dartmouth and the University of Virginia School of Law and a participating lawyer when he set out in 1981 to establish an airline in Atlanta. He received initial backing from the National Alliance of Federal and Postal Employees, a black union whose pension fund committed $500,000 to invest as venture capital. After securing this funding, Hollis was also able to secure backing from the Equitable Life Assurance Society, $15 million, and the Aetna Life Insurance Company, $7.7 million. Air Atlanta had nearly $90 million in startup funding by the time it took to the skies in 1984. So I'm going to fast forward and go down to the end of the article. After Air Atlanta flew some 3 million passengers during its service life, most of which were business travelers, its routes included New York, Memphis, and Miami. Internal problems and the lack of consistent cash flow helped bring the early demise of the first major black commercial airline company owned by an African American. So, according to the Google search I found, Air Atlanta was founded about February 1984 and it ceased operations April 2nd, 1987. So it ran its course about 3 years, and of course, like many black businesses, it met its early demise from a lack of consistent capital. But also, I should note that a lot of people on the post that I asked about Air Atlanta had great things to say about Michael Hollis as a person. So it appears that everything that he has done in business as far as Air Atlanta and since then and his life in general has been positive things because, like I said, people only had great things to say about him as a person. And the last thing that I wanted to discuss was I was so happy to see that Tariq Nasheed talked about how the highway system and its expansion and these sports stadiums have basically decimated black communities and black wealth. I think a lot of us don't realize that. I know I only learned about how destructive a lot of these, federal policies were and these sports arenas were in my undergrad. And when I learned, I was like really blown away, like, wow. So I'll use Atlanta, for example. So I work with people who live in People's Town who are actually fighting the city of Atlanta to keep their property from being taken via eminent domain. And what eminent domain is, basically, it allows the government to take your property. They're supposed to give you fair market value, which oftentimes they do not. But they're supposed to give you fair market value, and the catch is that the property has to be used for the greater good of the people. In other words, the property has to be used either for a highway, for a road, for a school, for a hospital, something that brings greater public good. But I feel like if cities really wanted to, they could always go around neighborhoods. I mean, basically, government does what it wants to do, and I believe that they have very smart people in government, so if they wanted to, they could find other ways to construct highways, but because they don't value our neighborhoods and because we don't have the sufficient economic support, a lot of times it's hard for us to fight them off, and a lot of times people will sell their property because they're so cash-strapped. So they feel like that's their only way. But thank you, Tariq, for highlighting the fact that the national highway system in most of these cities where it was mainly black people living, basically the highway system came in and destroyed those communities. Like the People's Town community I mentioned, one of the older residents was telling us that before the highway came in and before the first Georgia Dome Stadium came in, that all of those communities connected to each other, that they could walk from one neighborhood to the next in less than 2 to 5 minutes. And with the highway and the stadium, what happened was they lost grocery stores. They lost banks. They lost dry cleaners. They lost a lot of localized businesses. So, of course, the neighborhoods are now low income or economically deprived. Of course they are, because you kill the heartbeat of the neighborhood. And also, when you take people out of a neighborhood, you take away vitality. So, of course, they're neighborhoods that are barely, beating. And not only that, when these neighborhoods are destroyed, that in fact creates more food deserts. That's something else we don't talk about. And I think it's disingenuous for all of these anti-hunger organizations to talk about food deserts without talking about how some of these food deserts were in fact created by government themselves. So if we're going to talk about a food desert, or if we're going to talk about low-income black neighborhoods, let's talk about the complete history. And if we're not going to do that, then let's not have that conversation. But thank you, Tariq. And also, if you did not know, Atlanta is now building a second stadium. Why? Because the first one they claim was too much to it cost too much to retrofit. And to that I say it's bullshit. Like, it was just announced that Atlanta will be home to the Super Bowl, which I don't give a shit about. I mean, they get us to support these mega franchises, but it's to our own detriment. It's to our own detriment. What are we getting, or what are we yielding out of these franchises that we spend all of this money with? What are we getting from these sports franchises that we watch on TV? What are we getting from buying their paraphernalia? What are we getting? Nothing. Like, they contribute nothing back into our community. So I personally don't understand why some of us continue to support them, and we support them hard. But like I said, thank you, Tariq, for highlighting the fact that the national highway system and these ridiculously overpriced and, basically waste of space stadiums are killing black communities, and they continue to do so. And at the same time, we yell about, oh, we don't have money for education. Oh, we don't have money for schools. No, my mama always told me that people will always find money for what they want. So we don't really value education as a collective. And if we do, we're not making sure that our local government's spending reflects that. So those are my thoughts about Hidden Colors 4. If you have not seen it, you should. Please share your thoughts about the film. What stood out to you in the comments section? I would love to know. And until next time, y'all have a good one. Hey, I also wanted to add that Michael Hollis, the founder of Air Atlanta, died in June of 2012. And like I said, everybody that I asked about him spoke very highly of him. So it sounds like he not only achieved great things in business, but also in life in general. And he was only 58 years old, not old at all. So I just wanted to add that in, and I will link the article in the description bar. Once again, thank you for listening.